chosen one. There is a profound, unspoken weight you have carried for as long as you can remember. The quiet reality of being the only person in the room who sees the raw truth while everyone else reacts to illusions. You have sat peacefully in crowded spaces, watching the subtle shifts in eyes, listening to the hollow cadence of forced laughter, and feeling the hidden currents of intent long before anyone uttered a single word. You felt when a promise was built on air. You recognized insincerity in an instant, and you knew precisely who was pulling the strings behind the curtain. Yet, you chose to remain completely silent. To the world, your quiet demeanor looked like passivity, shyness, or an inability to stand up for yourself. They mistook your calm composure for ignorance, assuming that because you did not engage in their drama, you were oblivious to it. But you were never blind, chosen one. You were observing, absorbing the truth, and protecting your sacred spirit from a spiritual battlefield that was never yours to fight in. Carrying an undeniable inner knowing while allowing others to play out their illusions requires an extraordinary level of spiritual restraint. You knew the entire story from the start, but your soul understood that your silence was far more powerful and far more lethal than their noise. Welcome back to Wisdom Path, a sanctuary for souls who walk this quiet, profound journey. If your spirit recognizes the truth in these words, take a moment to support this space by liking this video and subscribing to the channel, helping us extend this sacred light to other chosen ones across the world. From the earliest stages of your journey, chosen one, you operated with an internal sensory system that functioned far beyond standard human perception. Long before you had the vocabulary to describe it, you were absorbing the hidden frequency of every room you walked into. While those around you focused on polished words, practiced smiles, and social status, your spirit was quietly analyzing the unspoken currents beneath the surface. You were not simply listening to what people were saying. You were reading the emotional architecture of who they actually were. This innate clarity was never something you studied or actively sought out. It was a spiritual mechanism built into your core to ensure your survival and navigation in a world governed by deception. Because of this heightened awareness, you quickly began to notice the severe disconnect between human projection and inner reality. You could stand in a room and watch someone receive loud praise, yet instantly feel the bitter coldness of covert envy radiating from the person standing right beside them. You could hear someone deliver a smooth, charismatic speech and immediately sense the hollow desperation driving their need for control. You saw the deep-seated fear hidden beneath inflated arrogance, the malice wrapped in overly sweet compliments, and the calculated self-interest disguised as genuine concern. To you, human pretense was never invisible. It was loud, clumsy, and impossible to ignore. Living with this degree of transparency created an unspoken distance between you and the social world. You recognized early on that the average person does not navigate reality seeking absolute truth. They seek comfort, validation, and narratives that protect their fragile self-image. Most people are fully invested in the theater of daily life, happily exchanging pleasant lies to maintain a fragile sense of harmony. When you try to share what you intuitively saw during your younger years, you were often met with confusion, defensiveness, or outright hostility. You quickly realize that presenting raw truth to people who worship comfortable illusions only makes you appear cynical, disruptive, or unstable in their eyes. This realization forced you into the role of a silent observer. You learned to navigate social spaces like a visitor from another realm, nodding at appropriate moments, offering polite smiles, and permitting conversations to flow without disrupting them with your insights. You sat through family gatherings, workplace meetings, and social events watching intricate games of manipulation play out in real time. You saw who was secretly plotting against whom, who was building an alliance out of fear, and who was setting traps for the unsuspecting. Yet you kept your realizations buried deep within your spirit, choosing to observe the entire board rather than rush onto the field. The true isolation of the chosen one rarely stems from being physically alone. It comes from being entirely conscious in a room full of sleeping souls. There were times you felt deeply exhausted by the sheer volume of hidden motives you were constantly absorbing. You carried the strange, heavy knowledge of knowing everyone's unmasked self while they remained convinced that their performance was flawless. You watched people build elaborate reputations on foundations of deceit, knowing with absolute certainty that it was all temporary, yet choosing not to speed up their inevitable collapse with your words. Furthermore, your quiet awareness created an undeniable shift in the atmosphere whenever you entered a room. Even when you said nothing, your authentic energy acted as an unwritten confrontation to those living in falsehood. Manipulators and insecure individuals could instinctively feel that their usual tricks slipped right off your spirit without catching hold. They did not need you to verbally expose them. Your calm, unbothered posture told them everything. This often led to sudden hostility, unexplained distance, or subtle smear campaigns directed at you, simply because your unspoken discernment made them feel exposed in their own skin. In time, you made peace with this sacred burden. You stopped expecting others to possess your level of spiritual vision, and you ceased looking for external validation for what your soul already knew. You began to treat your discernment not as a tool for public confrontation, but as a private database of divine truth. You learned to file every observation away into the quiet vault of your mind. You let people play their parts, wear their masks, and execute their plans, fully aware that your quiet, uninterrupted vision was keeping you protected while they slowly exposed themselves to the universe. To the undiscerning eye, your quiet nature was routinely interpreted as weakness, passivity, or an inability to stand up for yourself. The world routinely assumes that the loudest voice in the room commands the most power, and that silence is the hallmark of those who have been defeated. They watched you tolerate slights, overlook backhanded compliments, and walk away from obvious traps, assuming you were simply too naive or timid to fight back. What they failed to understand, chosen one, was that your silence was never a sign of submission. It was the ultimate display of spiritual mastery and calculated restraint. There were countless moments throughout your life where you possessed the exact words, the undeniable proof, and the razor-sharp insight needed to dismantle a liar on the spot. You had the power to pull the rug out from under covert manipulators, to expose frauds in front of the very audience they were trying to impress, and to incinerate false narratives with a single, devastating sentence. You held the metaphorical key to their exposure in your hands more times than you can count. Yet, in the critical moment when you could have delivered a crushing blow to their ego, you took a breath, closed your mouth, and stepped back. You refrained from striking not out of fear of conflict, but because your spirit understood a fundamental law of spiritual warfare. Throwing brilliant light into a dark room full of people who love the darkness will only cause them to attack the light bearer. When you expose a deceiver in front of an audience that relies on that deceiver's illusion, the group will rarely thank you for liberating them. Instead, they will turn on you to protect the comfortable lie they have built their lives around. Your spirit recognized that exposing toxic individuals prematurely often converts you into the villain of a story you were merely trying to correct. Furthermore, your evolution taught you the incredible value of energy conservation. Engaging in public warfare with spiritually blind individuals is a massive drain on your divine energy reserves. Arguing with someone who is committed to misunderstanding you is like trying to explain the ocean to a creature that has only lived in the dirt. It consumes your peace, lowers your spiritual frequency, and pulls you down into the muddy trenches of low-level emotional conflict. You realize that your time, your focus, and your presence were far too valuable to be wasted on teaching basic morality to people who had consciously chosen corruption. By choosing silence, you were not backing down, you were stepping out of the way so that higher laws could take effect. There is a sacred precision in allowing a deceitful person to believe they have successfully outsmarted you. When a manipulator believes they have fooled a chosen one, their ego inflates, their arrogance grows unchecked, and they become reckless in their actions. By withholding your reaction, you allow them to continue digging their own hole without interruption. You give them complete freedom to lay out their own traps, step directly into them, and trigger their own collapse. Your silence, therefore, was a weapon of absolute patience. It was the calm composure of a master strategist who already knows the final outcome of the game and feels no urge to rush the final move. You understood that human justice is messy, loud, and often incomplete, but divine justice is quiet, meticulous, and absolute. You surrendered the impulse to avenge yourself, choosing instead to sit back in quiet authority, knowing that every act of deceit carries an internal timer that will eventually detonate in the life of the one who created it. Ultimately, your restraint served as a filtration system for your life. By remaining silent, you allowed time to reveal the true intentions of everyone around you. Those who were authentic remained steady, while those who were operating on hidden agendas eventually hung themselves with their own words and actions. You did not have to lift a finger or raise your voice. Your silence created the quiet space necessary for truth to rise to the surface, proving that standing still in spiritual truth is infinitely more powerful than waging a noisy war in the physical world. Chosen one. Holding the truth in silence, however, demands an extraordinary emotional toll that very few individuals could ever endure. There is a profound, lingering grief that comes with possessing the foresight to see a disaster forming miles before it arrives, while knowing that any attempt to sound the alarm will be met with anger and resentment. You have spent years watching friends walk into toxic relationships, family members trust deceitful individuals, and colleagues fall for obvious traps. You saw the exact moment the trap was set. You knew precisely how it would end, yet you were forced to remain completely still. You had to learn the agonizing discipline of spiritual non-interference. Life taught you through painful experience that you cannot live other people's journeys for them, nor can you strip away the illusions they are determined to hold on to. Some souls are so deeply entangled in their own karma that they can only learn through destruction. If you step in to rescue them from a fire they willingly walked into, you delay their evolution and often burn yourself in the process. You had to sit on your hands and watch people you cared about suffer the consequences of warnings they ignored, carrying the heavy weight of what you knew in total isolation. Perhaps the most exhausting aspect of holding this unspoken truth was watching how people treated you when you refused to validate their lies. Because you would not participate in their gossip, endorse their false narratives, or applaud their superficial achievements, you were often labeled as distant, arrogant, or cold. You were forced to bear the discomfort of being misjudged by people whose entire lives were constructed on falsehoods. They called you simple because you spoke softly, unaware that the quiet mind they were judging contained a complete, razor-sharp understanding of their hidden weaknesses. This burden often followed you into the late hours of the night, where the noise of the physical world faded, leaving you alone with the sheer weight of your observations. You spent countless evenings processing the heavy emotional residue of the day, praying for peace and asking for the strength to keep carrying light in a world so deeply enamored with shadow. You had to continually cleanse your own spirit so that the toxicity you observed in others would not settle into your own heart as bitterness, cynicism, or resentment. It required an extraordinary level of spiritual maturity to refrain from becoming cold, vindictive, or detached from humanity altogether. It would have been easy to use your deep perception to harm those who tried to play games with you, or to become smug in your silent superiority. But a true chosen one does not use divine sight as a weapon for ego gratification. You used your silence to build an internal sanctuary, refining your patience, deepening your compassion, and learning to view human weakness through the lens of divine understanding rather than personal offense. As you navigated relationships, this unspoken knowing meant accepting that many connections, had expiration dates that only you could see. You could feel the exact moment someone's energy shifted away from genuine connection and towards self-serving motives. Walking through life, knowing when a friendship or partnership is ending, long before the other person even realizes they have betrayed the bond, requires a quiet strength that breaks your heart while simultaneously protecting your destiny. You had to learn to grieve connections while still standing right next to the person, holding the truth in silence until the universe called for the final exit. Ultimately, holding the unspoken truth was the fire that forged your spiritual authority. It separated your desire for earthly validation from your calling toward divine purpose. You came to accept that being trusted with profound spiritual vision means accepting the quiet solitude that accompanies it. You stopped needing the world to see what you saw, and you found absolute peace in knowing that your silence was never a sign of emptiness. It was the sacred armor that kept your soul intact until the timing was right for your true power to be realized. There comes a moment in the life of a chosen one when you begin to notice that your silence carries an active, penetrating weight that alters the atmosphere around you. Even when you stand quietly in the corner of a room, making no demands and offering no critique, your presence acts as an unwritten spiritual mirror. An authentic, highly perceptive soul emits an energetic frequency that naturally vibrates against false narratives. You do not need to speak a single word of judgment or mount a public campaign against deceit. Your calm, grounded clarity involuntarily forces the unvarnished truth of others back onto themselves. The masks that people spend years perfecting in order to fool the world begin to feel loose and uncomfortable whenever they stand in your physical or spiritual field. This mirror effect explains the strange, unexplained tension that so often arises in your interactions with insecure or manipulative individuals. Have you ever noticed how certain people become visibly fidgety, overly talkative, or strangely defensive around you for no apparent reason? They might begin over-explaining their decisions, offering unsolicited justifications for their behavior, or attempting to prove their moral worth to you without you ever asking a single question. Their spirit instinctively senses that you possess the rare ability to see directly into their shadows. They are not responding to anything you have said. They are reacting to the terrifying realization that their carefully crafted illusions are completely ineffective against your silent discernment. This spiritual friction frequently manifests in another fascinating phenomenon: the unprompted confession. Because your energy carries the weight of raw truth and absolute stillness, people often feel an overwhelming subconscious urge to spill their hidden secrets to you. Total strangers on an airplane, distant acquaintances at an event, or co-workers during a quiet shift will suddenly open up and share deeply personal mistakes, covert regrets, or hidden fears that they have never uttered to anyone else. Your non-judgmental, observant aura creates a sacred container where their ego momentarily surrenders to their soul. In your silent presence, the heavy mask becomes too exhausting for them to wear, compelling their inner truth to break through the surface. However, when individuals are trapped in deep narcissism or commitment to their own deceit, the mirror effect produces a vastly different reaction: irrational hostility. When a person whose entire identity is built on a lie encounters someone who cannot be lied to, they do not feel inspired to change. They feel deeply threatened. Since they cannot alter the clarity of your vision, their only ego-driven defense is to attempt to shatter the mirror. They may launch subtle smear campaigns, paint you as arrogant or difficult, or project their own hidden flaws directly onto you. You become the scapegoat for their internal frictions simply because your existence reminds them of the authentic standard they refuse to meet. Recognizing this dynamic releases you from a massive, unnecessary weight of self-doubt. For a long time, chosen one, you may have blamed yourself for the sudden awkwardness, hostility, or emotional distance that seemed to follow you in certain social circles. You wondered if you were doing something wrong, if your energy was off-putting, or if you needed to shrink yourself to make others comfortable. But spiritual maturity teaches you that you were never the cause of their discomfort. You were merely the light exposing the dust in their room. Their unpredictable behavior was never about your actions. It was about their inability to endure the quiet light of an unmasked spirit. As your awareness deepens, you learn to observe these atmospheric shifts with cool, detached fascination rather than personal distress. When someone suddenly retreats from your life, acts cold, or attempts to provoke you without cause, you no longer waste your vital energy asking why. You recognize the mirror at work. You understand that their ego is reacting to the unspoken truth you represent, and that their departure is simply an automatic clearance designed to keep your immediate environment clean. You permit them to dislike you, misinterpret you, or run away, knowing that light has no obligation to apologize for being bright. Ultimately, accepting the mirror effect allows you to embrace your presence as a divine filter. Your silence naturally draws authentic, soul-aligned individuals toward you, while effortlessly repelling those who rely on illusion to survive. You no longer need to spend time sorting through fake friends or deceptive partners. Your quiet energy performs the spiritual sorting process automatically. By simply existing in your unvarnished truth and keeping your mouth closed, you allow the universe to use your very presence as a sacred benchmark, separating the real from the false long before a single word is ever spoken. The ultimate turning point in your journey arrives when you stop viewing your deep discernment as an exhausting curse and begin honoring it as your most powerful divine shield. For years, carrying this unspoken truth felt like walking through the world with an open wound, absorbing the pain of unseen deceit and suffering under the weight of isolated knowing. But as you fully step into your spiritual authority, chosen one, a profound alchemy takes place within your consciousness. You realize that your heightened perception was never meant to make you a tragic martyr who suffers for the sins of the world. It was given to you as a high-level navigational tool, an unbreakable armor designed to ensure your complete immunity in a deceptive realm. Part of reclaiming this sacred shield means completely relinquishing the childish need for earthly vindication, public confessions, or traditional closure. In the lower stages of spiritual growth, we often waste immense amounts of time waiting for toxic people to acknowledge the pain they caused, or praying for a public moment where our truth is finally validated by the crowd. But a true master understands that waiting for a liar to validate the truth is an act of spiritual self-sabotage. Your spirit already delivered the absolute verdict the moment the event occurred. When you trust your divine inner radar, you no longer require a formal apology, a courtroom trial, or a dramatic confession to grant yourself permission to heal, detach, and move forward. This shift transforms the way you navigate boundaries, choices, and exits in your everyday life. You stop engaging in prolonged, emotionally draining debates with people who violate your peace. You no longer feel compelled to issue long explanations, publish dramatic announcements, or seek external permission before removing yourself from compromised environments. When your intuition signals that a situation, a workplace, or a relationship is toxic, you execute your departure quietly, swiftly, and without hesitation. You master the art of the silent exit, walking away with such absolute, graceful finality that you leave no energetic hooks behind for manipulators to pull you back in. Furthermore, holding your tongue when you possess full knowledge builds an extraordinary reservoir of internal power. Every time you refrain from engaging in low-level gossip, every time you choose not to clap back at a foolish insult, and every time you keep your strategic plans hidden from prying eyes, you seal off energy leaks in your spirit. Spiritual power operates much like pressure in a sealed vessel. When you constantly speak, vent, and argue, you bleed out your spiritual voltage into the ether. By mastering total restraint, you build an immense magnetic authority that radiates from your very core, granting you a quiet command over your life that words could never achieve. Reclaiming your knowing requires you to cultivate an unshakable, foundational self-trust that overrides the collective noise of the world. You must reach a point where your internal whisper carries far more weight than the roaring opinions of 10,000 people standing against you. When your spirit tells you that a situation is wrong, even if the entire world is applauding it, you stand firm in your internal knowing. You stop second-guessing your initial gut instincts, recognizing that every single time you ignored that quiet warning voice in the past, you paid a heavy price in peace, time, and emotional stability. Your intuition is your personal connection to the divine, and honoring it is your ultimate responsibility. This unshakable self-trust naturally creates an impenetrable shield of divine immunity around your life. When you refuse to participate in low-frequency conflicts, you remain completely unattached to the karmic entanglements that destroy others. By keeping your hands clean, your mouth quiet, and your heart free from bitterness, you allow higher universal laws to manage your battles entirely. You watch from a position of absolute safety as divine justice clears your path, dismantles your obstacles, and repays those who tried to harm you, all while your own energy remains pristine, protected, and untouched by the chaos of the world. Ultimately, stepping into full spiritual authority means standing poised in the peace of your silent knowing. You no longer view your quiet nature as a sign that you are missing out on the world's fast-paced drama. You view it as proof that you have outgrown the need for foolish games. You carry your deep sight not as a heavy cross to bear, but as a regal crown worn in secret. You walk through life with the calm, serene confidence of a soul that has seen behind the curtain of human existence, fully content to let the world make its noise while you silently fulfill your divine destiny. The era of carrying your deep sight as a lonely, heavy burden is officially over. Chosen one, you were designed to hold this quiet clarity, navigating this world with the serene, unshakable authority of a soul who no longer needs public applause to validate their truth. Rest in the divine certainty that your silence was never wasted. It was the quiet sanctuary keeping your spirit intact for the sacred chapter unfolding right now. Thank you for spending these reflective moments with us here on Wisdom Path. If these words brought peace, alignment, or clarity to your heart today, take a moment to subscribe, like this video, and join our growing sanctuary of awakened souls walking this quiet, profound path. To anchor this energy into your daily life and seal your divine peace, leave a comment below saying, "I claim my silent authority, and I trust my divine truth." Protect your peace, keep walking in your quiet power, and remember, your silent light is changing the world far more than you know.